Welcome everyone. We're going to show you a little bit about what we're working on here with our Your Little Castle show. I'm going to turn off the music. Got my shortcuts now all set up. There's amazing things you can do with computers, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about what you see behind the screen here with me. This is our TV wall, but I'm going to make it easier for you guys to see. So I'm going to click the picture in the picture button, and look at that. I'll even switch cameras to the, let's go to camera number 1, and that's a bit tighter shot of me. So you see me down here in the corner, right? Everybody sees me. Let me go with this spreadsheet that I created. A lot of people know I'm kind of a spreadsheet mogul. I don't know if I'm a guru, but there's lots of information you can help people understand about the cost, etc., of whatever it is you're doing. So you need all your expenses, you need to add them all up, you need to figure out the ratios and blah, blah, blah. Conversion rates, we're not getting that deep. We're just going to talk about, in this case, how much does it cost to produce a quality studio show for broadcast, and that's what the whole title says up there, for broadcast TV. In this case, we have a show we've produced for a long time on ABC. We've obviously been on NBC a few times. And somebody said, well, what about all the stuff on the internet? I'd say, well, look at Netflix. Netflix didn't ever do anything poor quality, right? Because there's some stuff that's on the internet that looks terrible, and the reason you don't make it poor quality is because that's kind of a representation of your business. So what I can show you is the breakdown price-wise, because we've done shows at the highest level you can in St. Louis with regard to the #1 studio. Most people know this, and that's what you see on this little board on here. I'm gonna actually flip back here, show you guys, but we're gonna show you the spreadsheet in a second. But go back to the cams. So look here, and I'm going to zoom back out, and I believe that's camera number 2. There it is. These studio pics right here, we put these up. This is our studio show that we're used to in the Hollywood studio. And then we've built our own studio that rivals this. I've had people get confused, and some people said they like this studio better than I'm sitting in right now. This is our own personal studio. I built almost all of it myself, but I had some help from some people to get the materials we need, at least, and cameras. And these beautiful tables came from Brooke Dubman at Carroll House Furniture, and the judge helped me all with all the stuff here I've got here, so to get the stuff hauled over here and everything. So this has become a real exciting adventure, and now we figured out how much we really are doing with regard to how much. If we were to try to do what we're doing at whatever, at the highest level, and then at the level we've got here, which people consider pretty high, I honestly don't give it that high of a level. I give it about a 7 out of 10. I mean, that studio's a 10 out of 10. ESPN, CNN, Fox Sports, Fox News. I don't know if all of those, but it's like most of those I know they've got pictures on the wall, and they show here's when Fox News was in our studio, and they used our studio because you can't walk into just about any studio and say, hey, we need. Now there's KTVI and whatever, but ABC, they use it all the time, and so this is kind of the way it is. So let's show you guys how that works. Let me go break it down for you here real quick. I'm going to go back to hit my button to go to the desktop picture in the pip, and put camera and zoom on me. Again, that was camera. Well, I can even go camera 4. It's a little different angle. I'm doing like this. You can see a little bit more, but I'm going to put it on, or I can go, yeah, camera 3 doesn't look much different. I've kind of shrank it down a little. It's a little tighter. Go with camera 1 because that's the closest shot to me. It's that camera. Yeah, I always point at it so you know exactly. It's that camera right there. So, all right, so let's break it down here. So if you were in a studio, we have essentially a high estimate over here and then a low estimate over here. And I know these prices because, of course, there are ways you can do it even cheaper than this, right? You can get your handy cam and you hold it up and you go, I got one with me all the time. I usually have 2 because I do so much. You can hold this thing up and point it at yourself, and this looks all right. This does a good job for some of the stuff you're trying to accomplish. And I use it myself, and I do a lot of stuff with it. But when we get in the studio, when we look at professional and take it to the next level, because that's an example of like, here's what we do. If we do everything at this lower level, then nobody's going to take us, not everybody's going to take us that seriously. But I can show you some of where you can kind of start. And it may be even cheaper than this, but not by much. And and I even say on here, if you look at the screen, I'm going to move the mouse over here. I say this is low level, like pro level 3. You could put it on TV, maybe, but we've all seen those programs, and they look like they're pro level 3. They're not pro level 2 or 1 or 0, but they're pro level 3. Let's just say if we were to do this on your own, let's break down here what I've got here, because I'm going to show you what these numbers, how I equate these. And it's very difficult to get a studio that will give you 2 hours for $500. But there are a few that will bend the rules, and maybe a little cheaper than that. You can get something, like I said, but make sure it's quality. And so most of the studios are saying, hey, and I know the one that we use a lot, this giving you some ballpark numbers. I don't want to give away exactly what our special price is, but I know what they normally charge. And so if you're at this lower end quality, you're going to spend $1,000 just to get in that studio. Whereas the high level studios, you're talking $650, and you probably got to go 4 hour minimum to do that. And so you better have a lot of interviews, stuff you're going to do. Airtime, though, and this is where a lot of people don't realize, you're paying for airtime one way or the other. All right, either it's been broadcast and put in by the corporate networks, and they're paying for it through their own because they own it, or you're buying it from them. And that's tons of businesses do that, and that's just kind of another way to do things. But people don't really understand or see the difference many times. So here you are, and you're looking at on the very low end. I know I can tell you I can get a better price than this because I've been working with them so long, and we've got resources. But you're talking $600 or so for the quantity here, and the quantity here is a 28-minute, 30-second show. The average is more close to, and actually this could be a lot higher too, but I'm like saying, hey, we're getting a prime time $6,000 spot. We're going to go for the $3,000. So this is the highest, but not the highest, but very high. But over here you're at $3,000. So back and forth we go here, and you can see right now I've got the next very important essential thing you have to have is some kind of video editing. And so you're going to spend at least $50. And this is interesting because I really think at $50, you're usually getting somebody who doesn't know what they're doing a whole lot, because they're giving you $50 an hour or less. Some people might do, but really then how many hours are they going to spend on it, because they're not very good. So it's going to take them 4 hours. But somebody that's really good can get the same amount of work done in 2 hours, but they're going to be more like $150. So that's the high end at $150 versus the low end at $50 an hour. But probably 2 hours here and 4. And that's just really the way editing is, if you understand that world. And I do a ton of editing. I'm not world class, but I know how to get all this stuff done. And stuff I don't know how to get done, I pay out some high-end guy to do a one-time job stuff for me. But cutting, editing, splicing, titles, all those kinds of things, graphics, all that kind of stuff, I can show you. It's not terribly complicated, but you got to have the equipment, you got to have the software, etc. Talent. Now this is where it gets a little, there's quite a range here. And some people, and this could go way up too. I mean, I know what some of the companies in our area pay to bring on talent, like national talent, and that's like, you're starting at like 60 grand, okay? 100 grand, 200 grand. But in this case, we're saying you found some other local person in there saying, I'm willing to do it, but you got to give me $500 an hour for 4 hours, and they want about $2 grand to show up for the day. You might find somebody who's willing to do it for less than that, say a minimum of $100 an hour, and a minimum of 2 hours, and that's where you're here on the low end again for $200. So we'll just go back and forth. I'll speed things up here a little bit because you kind of get the gist of what we're doing. But production, you can find somebody to produce for you. You probably got to have another $150 an hour person there to do it right. 4 hours, $600. But you can find somebody just kind of patch things together and call people and figure it out and pay them $25 and get a couple hours out of them, and you're over here, and it's going to end up costing you $50 total. Funnel page. Now this is another majorly important piece that we add because so many people, they don't understand. Web developers, it blows my mind. I've been doing this for so long. Web developers that I know don't know what a funnel page is. I'm like, ugh. Historically, it's been known as a landing page, but it's got much better than that because now they've really made it so concise, to the point, and it can close deals for you if you get a funnel page set up properly. And that's just I'll just give you some examples. I'm going to actually show you one in a minute here. Let me go over here, and this is an example of a funnel page, right? And we're going to get back to this pricing. This pricing is my page. It's a hidden link. We don't share this with anybody unless we want them to know about it. And it's after we've talked to them usually. But this is the pricing for us to produce a whole show for you. But see how big and easy the fonts are to read? And the key to this is that by now it's like 60, 70, 80% of your traffic comes from this new little handy thing called a mobile device, right? And that's usually a smartphone, a cell phone. Tablets are kind of going away. Laptops are still pretty popular, but that's a desktop, and this looks great on desktop too. But funnel pages are critical if you want to make sales. Some people do websites, and they don't care if they don't make much money, and they send them to a website, and people get confused, and they don't understand what they're getting, and they turn around and bounce. And the bounce rate and all the stuff you can talk about, I get into miles and miles of information about funnel pages versus websites, and the people that know what they're talking about know that funnel pages are much more effective. ClickFunnels, number one, everybody knows them. I've got an alternative to them that actually some of the rating systems say is better than ClickFunnels. And I was smart. I bought in on the company's launch because I had a heads up, and I got an unlimited copy, unlimited version. So it cost me $0. You won't get that opportunity again because that offer is long gone. That was 7 years ago. They still exist. I still get my unlimited. But I've even bought another one since then. It does almost everything you need. And that one I bought in also got the unlimited, because I have a guru in the industry said, you better buy this. You're going to need it. It's going to help you. And we have that too. So if you were on your own, you would still have to go with at least a rate on the high end of, like I say, funnel page software. And then you've got 12 months to do that, because you're just getting the software. And that could be as cheap as $15 a month. And for 12 months still, though. And that's for some stuff that's kind of off-brand and doesn't work so well. And, hey, maybe you saved a few bucks. Was it worth it? My dad always used to say, it gets very expensive to be cheap. Think about that for a minute. Funnel page design. This is another cost. It's like, even if you got your funnel software from somewhere and you didn't have to pay for it, which is very, very unlikely. But if in case you're somewhat very expensive, or somebody's letting you borrow their license for something, that gets you into trouble a lot of times. But you get a funnel page designer, and on the mid end, not even the super high end, they're going to go for about $135 an hour. This has come down quite a bit because people used to do these funnel pages when they first got. Everybody realized that they close deals 6 times. They generate 6 times the amount of leads of a website. Yes, I said that. It's on the go to ClickFunnels, and if you want to spend as much money as they charge you, they're great, but they're the most expensive. And they say straight up, this system is 6 times higher conversion rate than, not always, because sometimes the page isn't set up right. But the ones that are set up right, it's 6 times. Not double, not 3, not 5, 6 times. But hey, maybe it's not always that way. If it's double, it's still way better than your website. Trust me. So we've got $135 there, and that's for the guy on the high end. And he takes 4 hours to set this thing up. You're talking about another $540 to do so. We have everything set. We have everything configured. We have templates we've developed on our own that do an incredible job. On the low end, you might get somebody here for $50, $44. That's going to be an expensive way to waste a lot of money, but hey, you don't realize that until after it's over, and you can do it that way if you want to. But again, we're just showing you the difference between what you can spend on the high end and on the low end. We're going to give an average, and then I'm going to show you again what we charge. And just because we have such, I mean, the truth is, we built our own studio. I'm going to get back to that in a minute, because that's really where it's at. I'll finish up with that. Clips editing. This is another critical piece. I don't know how long we've been doing this. I know how long we've been doing this. Since 2017, early 2017. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 5 years of doing this. We're going into our 6th year of a television show on ABC. And I've done so many videos for people, and they love them, and they enjoy that we give them a copy if they happen to be on our show one way or the other, through the Cowboy Judge Show or the Cardinal Cowboy Show, which was the original, and then now the Cowboy Judge Show. It's been going for some time. We got some incredible sponsors that help us obviously make that all happen. So that's awesome. And then we give them the clips, we give them the video, and they don't do anything with it. I'm like, what? We just come into our studio, and this is quite a production we put on, and you don't use the video. So another thing that is very valuable that you should have is to have those clips cut into what we call snippets, and those are going to be very valuable because now you can really send those out on social media. Most people do not want to watch a full 15 or 30-minute interview, but we went back and forth with multiple questions, usually between 17 and 22 questions. How do I know? Because I've done the work to set these up dozens of times, right? Because now we're doing it for the clients if they decide to have us do this. So at $135 an hour, again, this is on the high end, you're going to spend at least 2 hours to get that done, $270. Or you get somebody cheaper for $50 an hour. They're going to take longer to do it because they're not very good, and you're looking at $150. And that's even if they know what we're doing, and I used to explain it to them and how this works. But the clips, editing, and cutting. The clips, editing, and cutting, you have to actually physically cut the clips, right? So here's the funnel page to do the funnel page. This is the editing, the cropping, they used to call the splicing. I worked at Channel 2 as an intern back in the day, and they still had the reel-to-reel machines that literally, and I'd have to tell them, okay, at 34 minutes and 18 seconds into the game, there was a touchdown scored. And these guys, Mike Greenwood, would have me come in, and I would write down. My job was only to log every key play during the football game and just watch football games. It was great. I got an internship, gaining all kinds of experience, and I got to watch football. And so I did that throughout the game. But you've got to figure that out for your clips, and you got to know how to cut them, and you got to put them together. It's a beautiful experience because now you've got something that gets somebody's attention like that. And this is the question that people ask me: why are you so good at what you do? Why should I buy your product? Well, we talked about who I am, where I'm from, and how we got started. And 10 minutes into the interview, we finally figured out what steps you. But people may not necessarily want to start off with that. You give them that clip up front. The clips is very valuable. And then to put them on a YouTube channel, it's amazing to me how many businesses still to this day do not have a YouTube channel. That's just like, hello, it's like for having your own television station at whatever level you want to get that to, and you don't have one, and it's free, and you can put it up there, and you might start off with some stuff that doesn't look so good. Hey, but why not start off with some great looking stuff that looks awesome? And so then we can say that's relatively inexpensive to get those kinds of things done for $50 an hour for the average person, and $25 for the inexpensive person that might mess it up and make problems worse for you. But YouTube is the way it is. And you will also put these up on your social media. We're going to give you the copy of these. I didn't put a line item on here for uploading the videos to you. There's a bunch of other extra work that also goes in that could fall underneath production potentially. But when you add all of this up, on the very, very low end, if you try to do this skimpy, cheap, and probably just wasting your money, about $2,725. On the high end, to get it really done right, and we explained where you could go even higher than that for sure, you're looking at about $12,000. So all I did, this is not the mean, this is the average. Do I recall that correctly from college calculus or whatever they made me take that I didn't like very much? But $15,000 is the total between this and this. So if I'm right, the average cost, and you just divide those by 2, the average between those is $7,743. And you can see what we're trying to explain here is this is somewhere in between, but closer to what you're going to actually spend if you really wanted to get into doing this the right way. And don't believe it if you don't want to. Go ahead and get yourself a pro level 5 or 6 and spend $5,000. Or a pro level 6 or 7. And that's why I say this, I don't know whether to put it a 6, but I'm saying this should be a 6. Maybe that's 7. We'll change it right here on the sheet because I've created the sheet. It's a 7 to get it somewhere in that level. Well, knock yourself out. Now because we've done this in a way that where you're not even going to get a whole half hour unless you want to, and we can talk about that. And there's reasons we might do that, and sometimes we might change our pricing. But most people, half hours kind of waste your time. So then you're not having to produce a whole half hour yourself. You can share the time with somebody else. So this is like bulk purchasing, right? We go find 2 or 3 other prospects, businesses that want to be on the show, and we divvy it up and you share the cost a little bit. Well, that saves you a whole lot of money just based on that alone, because now you don't have to bring in 3 of your friends that want to spend X amount of dollars to get this done, somewhere between $2,700 and it's like, if you got 3 of them that wanted to do this, there's nobody that would say let's do it for $2,750, and all of us look terrible or below average and scare off our audience and say let's look like we don't know what we're doing, or we do things halfway correctly. And so they might say, well, let's get together and do it for the $12,760. And then you divide that out a little bit, okay? Then you're down about $4,000 each, and that would be what you need to do it to the level we're doing it, or depending on which studio we use, and that we can save money when we use our own studio. But it looks, I honestly had people come to the studio and they're like, I think I'm lost. I'm like, nope, you got the right location. I'm giving you a hint there. It's not in some big expensive place, but it's in a very nice place. Some people might call that residential. But we have a beautiful studio that we've got all set up, and it looks great. So we're set for that, and I can save a ton of money for everybody too. So here we are at between these two. Now let me show you what this actually costs. And this is the pricing, okay? And I reserve the right to change this at any time. But here is our link on our site, which I was showing you guys already. So go up to the top here. My buddy Brooke is coming into the studio tomorrow. By the time you guys see this video, he will have long been through here and on the show once again, or another one of my shows again. And because he's been on the Cowboy Judge show, there's that interview. And he's been on the Cardinal Cowboy show where we streamed him in and we talked about a passion of his about animals, and that's something I have a lot of respect for too. And there was a thing I got brought into to help talk about all that stuff and the good things that the world does. And here we are, your little castle, the Platinum Hollywood. All right, and again, this could change. This could go up. This could go down. We could change anything about this because there's 5 million ways to do this, right? And which one is the most effective? So the Platinum Hollywood Studio, which costs a little more than the other studio, it includes everything you see here, an exclusive agreement where we put you on our funnel page. We can help you with your funnel page. At least you will have a funnel page, and you get that exclusively for 3 months. It's the same studio it's been in, ESPN. It's been in there, CNN, Fox. We also included in this hit an audience of 250,000 people. And believe me, that's an extra cost that isn't even thrown into all this yet. So if you throw that on top, what does that cost? It's a little trade secret. I'm not sharing it with you. But it's not on the TV networks. Let me just say that much, because everybody goes, oh, well, how many people watch ABC? How many? I know the numbers, and it's not bad. But I can hit way more people through this new thing called the interwebs, social media, YouTube, Facebook, and a number of others, and we will hit in a very targeted area specific to what you will want, because it's going to be in the region you want, with the age group you want, with the demographic that you want, education, income, etc. And it will help you to say, huh, we've got the right people. I've had somebody yesterday tell me, oh, I don't want that particular niche. Well, we'll customize it for them in the group that we work with for that into their niche. So that's what you get for $18.99 right now. You can click right here, boop, and it takes you to our good buddies at Square. That's the easiest one to quickly get set up, and there it is. And Jack Dorsey from native St. Louis and is the president, owner, founder of Square with his buddy, if you read up on that story. But here now we have the Studio B. It's very similar to Studio A. And so at 7 to 10 minute clip again, this has the 11-foot TV wall that you can see behind me, and you saw me looking at that before. And it's a beautiful glass table that we got from Carroll House, like I said. Almost everything is the same except that you're using this studio instead of that studio. That studio does cost a lot of money. This one we built ourselves. We don't have to pay for it. We own it now, right? So it saves $300. It might be worth it to you. Do the math. You can figure out whether it's worth doing that or not. And then this add-on for the clips is invaluable, because this is really where the money's at for you. But once we've got all this done, we're not going to charge you a whole lot more to get it done, even though it's probably more valuable. But you got to have the foundation before you build the house, right? And so the foundation is all of this, and you should do great things with it. And if you want to cut up the videos yourself, knock yourself out, it's a tedious kind of pain in the you-know-what job, but we'll do it for you. Include a funnel page, load, upload, put it on the YouTube channel for you, our channel, your channel. We'll figure that out, whatever you prefer. It's easier to create a new channel than it is to log into your channel, and we'd rather do that than a lot of different ways you could do it. But here you go for $5.99. It saves you a ton of time. It won't get done. Trust me. I know from very, very relevant actual experience with doing somewhere over 150 interviews by now. 80 of those done on ABC. 90 of those now. 90 30-minute interviews that I've personally conducted with the judge, Judge Mike Carter, Carter Law Firm, and the judge out in Wentzville. Is all of what he does. And he is obviously the some people know he's the lawyer, the legal representation for one of the biggest companies in the area that I won't name, but most people know who that is. And so there you go. Just look at all what we got here. It's kind of a no-brainer. Remember, this part of the video might be irrelevant depending on if you waited till tomorrow or the next day, but this explains it for you. And if you don't see the value in this, then we should probably have a discussion about how you want to grow your business and if you understand where the world is going. Because I've had multiple conversations, some with people who get it, and I had to kind of like go, I don't have time to explain to you what the errors you're making right now. We're too busy on what we're doing. And I have other people tell me, oh my gosh, this is the most brilliant thing ever. You should be charging 3 times. The guy told me you should be charging 3 times what we're charging. And I said, we'll get there. I just don't want to start off there. I want to make it a great value. And this is a super, very respected professional in our area. And so was the other guy that didn't have any idea what the value was. And he went off and just spent a bunch of money on something else that like made his problem worse, but he doesn't realize that. And because of a bunch of things that are going on in our world and how we just got to get work done and everything. So, hey, we'll deal with that later. But, hey, check it out. I do want to call him back. I'm like, let me explain to you some of the things. And even if you're not going to do this, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. But anyway, I've been doing internet marketing since 1994. I worked for Anheuser-Busch, started in 1998, and then 10 years with them until InBev came in, and I have a master's degree, so they said, you're fired, right? And then started working for Google's biggest partner, where I become the #1 sales rep, and then where I ended up, I'm going to go, let's get back to our cams, right? And then became just went off to my own, brought in some huge clients, and people are like, how much do those guys pay you per month? I'm like, I can't tell you, but it's more than most people make in 3 years. They were paying me per month. And it was cool. Not all that went to me. That was the budget, but I got my cut, which was a very high percentage of that. And most people were like, are you kidding me? And that didn't work out forever either, because I taught them too much, I would say. But that's all right. You do your job, and people think they can do it themselves, and maybe they can, and maybe they can't. But here you go, and we have this incredible opportunity for you. Then proceeded on to another company where I said, these guys hired me, and I said, all right, I'll come work for you. Was their #1 sales guy out of 1,683 sales reps nationwide. But I do know what I'm doing. So take your time to get to know this stuff, and the people who have actually sat down with me, they love the Cardinal Cowboy thing. Most everybody does. Believe me, I get haters too. There's always people that are jealous when you've done well. But this thing has helped me to really learn a lot, and it also stands out, which is part of the. I'll explain to you how this works. But they don't know at all what I do, and until they sit down with me, then they begin to realize, oh, he actually is really smart with this internet thing. I'm like, yeah, that's what my master's degree was in. 1995, I started after going through my coma that they didn't expect me to survive. I came out of it, graduated on time from college, proceeded to go to Webster, and got a master's degree before I turned 25 years old. I'm driven. I'm excited. I love the world. I love helping people, and that's my passion. So fortunate for me, I have two parents that were involved with the education world. My dad, a college admissions counselor who has more scholarships named after him than most people know our scholarships are available. Rest his soul, but he do a search for my dad's name. The first thing come up is this scholarship. And then my mother, who's been a drama teacher for 50-something years now, she's most famous for teaching John Goodman, but John flew in to name the auditorium after her when they decided that was something that needed to be done. And my dad would joke with her, they don't normally do that until you've passed on, because the people will walk around the building knowing they're standing there going, why did they name a building? And these kids, of course, and my dad thought that was funny because a kid gave my mom grief. Why did they name the building after you? Because my mom was probably keeping him in line, and he didn't like that. So I'm very fortunate. That's where I come from. You work hard, you do right, and your life is a lot easier. And you deal with all the other hurdles in life that there are, and sometimes the things go your way, and sometimes they don't. But you just keep doing what's right, and they tend to go your way more than when they don't. And then you really have nothing to worry about as long as you've always put that effort in. And that's what I believe, and that's what the people I work with I know believe, and that we'd like to work with you guys the same way. So thank you for your time listening to this video. A little bit of an endurance match here because I wanted you guys to get the full picture, but this is what we do, and this is why it's so effective, and there's nothing like this. My producer, I'm going to show you one more thing, who I've teamed up with, who is a friend of mine from years ago, and I forgot to bring this up and load it before I put this on. I had it up earlier, so I'm going to type it up real quick here. Yeah, so let's go see what happens here. There it is. All right, I'm going to switch it back over to the PIP. And so here is the IMDb page for my good friend, Lawrence Moran. Doctor, he doesn't like me to say that. He's got a PhD. He helps counsel kids. At the same time, he's an actor that's been in multiple movies. You can see the movies he's been in. Take a look down here. And there's many more than this than you see here because he was on the Love Boat as a kid. But he lived in a few years. We played on the same football team together. And just look at some of the credits he's got here. Unbelievable. What you don't see on here, though, look at this. What you don't see on here, though, is what he's done as a producer. And I said, you got to, is that on there? Okay, hold on. Maybe yeah, there's more than this on his production role that didn't make it on here yet or whatever, for whatever reason. But I said, Larry, and I don't think he was lying to me. I said, Larry, tell me something you've also produced. And he says, Cowboy, I produced a little show called America's Most Wanted. I'll let that sink in for a second. So the guy who's helping with me with this, who also said, this studio is beautiful. Don't worry that it's not quite the level of the other one. He said, this studio is awesome. We're going to use it. Trust me. I've done production. Where have you done production? I did America's Most Wanted. Oh, you've done this before at a high level. So that's what we're going to work on. That's what we're going to do. And Larry's helping me. And then he said, Lawrence, I know him as Larry, obviously. And then he said, and you don't need any production help from me. I've seen the way you produce. You're good. Help me. He's actually my agent, by the way. So, and there's some other, and that's how we got reconnected. And he said, Carter, you've got the skills, talent to do this. Again, another reason why you guys save money, because we don't need to have a talent that you have do these. He said, Carter, we're going to get you on the red carpet to do introductions and interviews of people at the Grammys, Oscars, Globes, and everything else, because he's connected to that world. He's seen my skills, and I have a different angle than most of the people do, in that I have a story. Tell me why you made it. Tell me how you got through. Tell me what it is that when you were ready to give up, why didn't you give up? All tied to my belief that this world is all about what you make of it, as someone who's overcome a coma. And watched the interview where we had a doctor who was the emergency room trauma doctor for the emergency room, who said, do you realize somebody that came out in your condition, the recovery rate for survival rate, they told me at the time was about, and my parents at the time, was about 50-50. They gave me 50-50 odds to survive. You can, if you look close, you can see the scar on my head up here, but I'll put this camera right. Can you see that, right? Is that cool? I'm kind of, it's kind of a nasty scar. I don't really like people to see it, but I'm an open book. But he said, you realize that you're 1 out of 50. And then he corrected himself. He said, no, you're 1 out of 100 who goes through that kind of a traumatic situation. This is the doctor talking. He's the surgeon, the emergency room surgeon, who said, I see these kinds of cases all the time in the emergency, not like after, and like the emergency comes in, he sees what happens to him. It's the traumatic, horrible situation like mine. And sadly, like I said, I don't want to get to the details of mine, but we were hit by a drunk driver. One of my buddies didn't make it. And so I'm not going to get emotional here, but awesome guy. I'll see him someday again. I know that. But I'm here for a reason, and we're going to make a difference. And to be somebody came from less 1 out of 100 odds for a quote-unquote full recovery. Most people know me, say, Carter, there's still definitely, I got to put the close camera up for this one. Carter, there's still something definitely wrong with you. So I wouldn't call it a full recovery, but it's pretty close. And it taught me things that most people don't ever appreciate or realize. And so I'm very fortunate from that perspective. And I feel like I'm here to change the world and make a difference. And this is the way I'm going to do it now for at least the next 5, 10, maybe the rest of my life. And it's really something I've been doing since I was recovered enough after my coma. And I was even speaking to kids not long after I went through the recovery and was out of the hospital and back at school and walking around going, hi. But they wanted me to speak to some kids, and it really has taken off since there. Didn't mean to get into that whole dissertation, as my dad would say, but I think this is going to make a big difference. And good news is I can edit or cut or crop or stop and delete anything I want, because I know how to edit. And I figure get it all done and cut out what you don't want. That's how you do things in the video production world. All right, everybody, appreciate your time. I'm going to put up our graphic on the wall behind me, as always, and finish up this interview. And we will this video. I do interviews so often I feel like it's always an interview. I'm interviewing myself. Here we go. And we will be back in just a little bit. Thanks, everybody. Giddy up.